Hey, what's going on, everybody? Glad that you could be here with us. Got a really good topic today. Really excited about this one. So as you jump on, say what's up, drop something in the comments. Racheal Hancock, my man, always here, ready to go. And today I got two folks, two young pros, both in their 30s, making a strong six-figure income. Both have sold well over 1,000 customers, multiple thousands, right? And so we're going to be talking about getting customers, doing deals, signing checks, getting clients, right? Making sales at the end of the day, because hey, that's what businesses do. So welcome. I'm going to bring on our friends. We got Mr. Daniel Abbott out of Texas, $150,000 ring earner. Also 150K, Miss Racheal Lawton, LinkedIn, B2B extraordinaire. And, she's good on the mojitos down in Mexico. I've seen it. So what's up, guys? You guys doing all right?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Josh.
Awesome. Great. Glad to have you. So people are hopping on. Hey, Diane, what's going on? So you saw the flyer. We're talking about sales. Both of you guys have sold. Now, I don't know. I just know it's over 1,000, right? Six figures, 1,000 customers personally, right? You've built a team and those types of things. But we're here talking about you today, not all the rest of the team. We forget about them for the next 30 minutes, right? So real quick, just in case no one knows, I think most folks know you guys, but real quick, just kind of give me, it doesn't even have to be your story per se, because both of you have been on here before, but more so like maybe you're Dun & Bradstreet in business, what you've accomplished, just so people know, to recognize who they're getting ready to hear from over the next few minutes. And we'll go with ladies first.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much, Josh. And it's definitely a privilege to be here with everybody. Happy February. It's kind of crazy that's where we are right now. I have been with Legal Shield for a little over 8 years. My background is as a waitress and a house cleaner. I have no background in a college degree or anything of that sort, but I began on a very part-time basis, then moved into a full-time basis after really honing in and focusing on my business for about 2 years straight. And since that time, I have found my focus in really just leveraging business opportunities with corporations and companies, their employees and such, and have now made more money than I have ever made before. Thanks to Legal Shield. It is most definitely creates an amazing opportunity, but does not come without blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of hard work and effort that goes into it. And so I'm sure that we'll go farther, deeper into what that looks like as we move along, Josh, but super grateful to be here. I've moved into the $150,000 ring, which means that I'm making over $150K annually within the Legal Shield commission bracket, and I'm really excited to see what this next year brings.
Awesome. Love it. Somebody posted in the comments, waitress and house cleaner. Waitress, house cleaner, well into six figures. Makes complete sense, Sure. Mr. Abbott, how about yourself?
Yes. So prior to Legal Shield was really nothing, right? It was just school. That was for me. It was just school, a little bit of college. I'm one of those on a job app or on an application, and when I'm filling out anything like a loan or anything, you got to put some college. I'm a some college applicant. Okay. Actually 6 years in college, but turned 21 and was really trying to figure out what I wanted to do the rest of my life, and saw Legal Shield. And I didn't start part-time. I started very, very full-time, meaning I had no other income coming in. So this was it, which is one of the reasons why it led me to our topic today, which is a little bit of sales, right? It led me to sales because I knew I could control that. I knew I could control what money I made by me going out and controlling the process and selling. So that's where I really started my journey, working on my 12th year with Legal Shield now. Earned $150,000 in a 12-month time frame. Been written over 2,000 personal memberships, along with building a team. So the past 11 years have been great, but definitely looking forward to the next 11 with this incredible company.
Man, come on, 2,000. Rachael, how many you got? I know you got more. Both of you have more than me. I know that for sure.
2,556 as of today.
All right. So I'm over. I just hit 1,000. I'm gonna look up right now. Let's see. I'm gonna say it's like 1,016 or something. 1,014.1. I found a midget and signed him up. That's the 0.1. All right. So, we got 3 people in their 30s making 6 figures, all sold over 1,000 customers. I figure that between the 3 of us, somebody could probably take away something. That's what I'm hoping for. So let's just kind of, we're going to talk about some things that people say. We're going to talk about, different elements of sales. Of course, some people, they may be more focused on building a team and all those different things. But like you said, Daniel, I mean, there's 3 things that I'm sure of. Now, I don't know if you guys would agree with this. Number 1, our product, it works for sure. Number 1, that's it. I'm super sold on that. I get that. Number 2, I can sell it, right? I can meet with somebody, tell them about it. They'll buy it a good percentage of the time, good enough. And then number 3, I could teach a competent person how to sell it, right? Outside of that, personally, I'm not so sure. I don't. What would you guys disagree or agree with that statement, or would there be one more that you would add?
I would agree.
I don't know about you, Daniel, but I would agree with that 1,000,000%. I would add one thing, and that would be consistency. And I know we'll get into that.
If they're a competent and consistent person, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that took me a while. Michelle was responsible for my consistency. So you don't have to be great. You just have to marry great. So, all right. So somebody's on here. Let's say, somebody's looking at this and they're like, man, I see people post on our Facebook page. They're like, they'll post something like, how do you sell the membership? They'll just like a random, like, how do you sell it? Right. What would you, if you're talking with that person, they're brand new. They don't even know. They're like, how do you sell it? Like, just, you don't have to get into too specifics, but like, what would you tell that person as a general first piece of advice to go down that road? And since we started with you, Rachael, we'll go over to Daniel for that one.
So my favorite thing is asking questions, right? Getting to know the person you're talking to, whether you're talking to a group of people or you're talking to 2 people, 1 person, it doesn't matter. Asking questions, even if you know the person, like, I mean, your best friends, whatever, I still like to ask questions because it establishes, you can kind of steer the conversation to Legal Shield. For an example, one of my favorite slides, and literally it was my most favorite slide when I was going out before we had, the mobile app and everything. When I got started, the trifold brochure, one thing I had printed off was the "Have you ever" slide in our presentation. And I would just carry that around with the trifold brochure because it led me to the brochure. It led me to our coverage of just asking questions like, hey, have you ever got a traffic ticket? Do you have a will? Right? Have you ever signed a contract or document? So getting to know your person leads you to the conversation. And then you know what to really pick up on. If somebody says, hey, I've never got a traffic ticket and they're 30 years old, I don't need to spend 10 minutes, explaining to them how they can use our services for traffic tickets. I'm still going to talk about it, but I'm not going to really sell them on the traffic tickets when they've already told me they don't have a need. But I've seen so many people, and including I've made this mistake before, right? You prejudge somebody, and you're like, oh, I bet this person gets a lot of traffic tickets, or they're driving a nice car, or I bet they don't have a will, and you just immediately lock on this and try to sell them on this one thing instead of the entire Legal Shield plan.
Yeah, it'd be like, tell them about those member perks. You just tell them.
Yes.
So have either of you guys, I don't know, I know some people have used this. I use it every time I meet somebody. It's my favorite thing. I feel like it's a secret weapon. Have either of you guys used the 1 minute survey at all? Is that something that you use very much?
I've never.
Okay. Yeah. You were looking at me like I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, it's just,
I'm sorry about that, Josh, but no.
Well, yeah, you're meeting all those highfalutin, big accounts. So I'm going to get to you. You just wait. But it's great. It does what Daniel just said, right? When you meet with somebody over Zoom or whatever the case may be, you're like, here, fill this out. It's like, oh, you don't have a will. Oh, you have a gun. You have a business. You this, you that. Oh, I would, you know what I mean? It tells you exactly. And I've been able to actually market more add-ons than I ever have, right? I sold a couple of gun owners supplements the last few weeks, 2 CDL plans. Like, I'm pretty proud of that, right? I actually got 2 CDL plans. So I'm coming after Mr. Alan Roman with my 2 truck drivers. But asking questions. Okay. So qualifying, we would say that. Okay. All right. I like it. So same question to you. Same question to you, Rachael. Would you say anything different? Somebody goes, how do I sell this? What would you say? Or maybe you just, maybe you'd say the same thing. I don't know.
No, for real. Daniel hit it right on the head. It is about asking questions. I remember back when I first enrolled as a Legal Shield associate. Remember, I was the waitress and the bartender and trying to sell Legal Shield just let me just give you a quick picture, because I think that this is absolutely hilarious, and you'll probably either relate or just get a good laugh out of it. So my top clients for my Racheal Rags cleaning company was the owners and the members of a golf course. Well, I also knew that they were CEOs of different companies, right? So I'm here scrubbing their floors and their toilets, and I then have Legal Shield in play. And now I'm trying to sell them legal plans for them and their employees. A complete mess, right? Doesn't sound quite right. So there's a way not to do this, and there is a way to do this. For me, I just set aside some brochures on the countertop after they gave me my
fanned them out, made them decorated.
I totally did. Let's not do that, okay? So if you're listening in for the first time and you're in my position, yes, you can have massive success, but there's a way not to do what I did. So what I would recommend is exactly what Daniel just stated, is that you have to ask questions to get to the end result. And I like to call this consultative selling instead of, I felt like it needed to be such a hard close and such a hard sell, where at the end of the day, you only really push people away that way. So if you understand the way that you personally buy, if someone was to spam you, let's just say, for example, in your Facebook Messenger, or sent you like an awkward text from somebody that you know, and they were like, oh, by the way, I would like for you to make more income and, whatever. That's just weird. So end of the day, Josh, to answer your question, to give the consultative approach, like Daniel just mentioned, maybe something along the lines of, hey, how are you doing?
Like, start a conversation, right?
Yes, to have a conversation before going in for the jugular, because that's going to allow for them to trust you even more and to understand where you're coming from before you go into exactly how you can help them with Legal Shield. And I found that that is a much better approach than what I was doing previously.
Love it. So let's go back not when you first started, but when you first started to hit your stride, right? So I'll give you my example, right? So it was somewhere around 2010. I was handing out my DVDs. I was on the auto ship of DVDs and all the rest. But we used to have, remember the flip charts? We used to have flip charts. I've had a bunch of versions of flip charts. And I drove around the country. So I'm in Georgia. I drove from Michigan to Georgia at the time. I was doing probably 4 or 5 sit-down presentations a day. All the PBRs I did on that flip chart, like, it was my sword that I carried around everywhere. And then I was like sitting down with 10 people a day, every single day for weeks straight. And that was the first time I hit the top position of executive director. And we sold so many memberships. And it was literally calling people, asking them for 15 minutes, showing up, going through the flip chart, saying the same thing every single time. I had the same questions, the same jokes. And no matter what, like, if I even thought that they hated everything I said, I would ask for the sale the same way every single time. And by the end of the month, like, I was like, one of my associates came to me. He's like, you know what? You're getting pretty good at this. I was like, that seems like what you're really saying is you were terrible. He's like, yeah, I used to suck at this. That's what he said. I was like, well, thanks. But it was doing all that, so much repetition. And then I had this like process that I would follow every single time with my handy dandy flip chart. That's what I did when I first started, like, really picking up momentum. So what did it look like for you guys? Like, what tool were you using? Was it like, what kind of meetings were you doing or not doing, or what was it for you guys? Rachael, we'll let you start.
Yeah, so I'll never forget my very first presentation. I was about a week in the business. I had ordered my flip charts. I had scheduled a coffee meeting. I didn't know what I was going to say. And the morning of, God shined his holy light on me and gave me my flip chart. So I totally did that as well. But, to piggyback on what you said, Josh, is the most important thing for anybody. And I'm sure that Daniel will have some amazing words of wisdom as well. But just stick with one tool that you find resonates with you the most. Get to know it, get to love it, get to really integrate yourself and your personal style with that. Don't deviate. I would say make sure that you do a plan, do review, and give your presentation to multiple people that you trust, that are in your upline or that you find to be successful, and just stick with that one simple tool. Do not continue to add more tools into the bucket. Just stick with one. And that would be my best piece of advice.
Okay. I like it. Daniel?
Yeah, so very similar to what Rachael just said. And what I got really good at maybe 5-6 years ago, before the apps came out and everything, I had an uncle that worked for Walmart. He was in corporate management, and we were having a conversation. It was on a holiday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, something. And he was telling me about how Walmart actually knows how much a person is worth when they walk in the store. So if a person walks in the store, they can go, hey, this person's worth this much, just based on people coming in and the volume of their sales. And they do it by store, they do it, by state, they do it by region. So they really get down to how much exactly what people are worth. And I started thinking, how can I use that in, my Legal Shield business? And it was, how can I figure out when I walk in a room, and whether there's 50 people, there's 5 people, can I look in a room and go, hey, I know I should walk out with this. Like, this is what this room is worth to me. And how I got like that was I started exactly what Rachael just said, was finding something and sticking with it before I proved that something else was better. This was really, today we're not as bad as we have been in the past, but and I say we, meaning all of us, were bad about when a new tool came out. We would all just be like, oh, this is it. This is the tool. This is the one we're going to use. And I'm like, but nobody's used it yet, right? Use it first, kind of test it out and figure out, does it work for you? Because I mean, Dave Savola, for an example, Dave would use the same script, the same thing. And I mean, he used it for years, right? Decades. And yet people came along and used different scripts and other things, and they made money like Dave and, other things. But Dave stayed like, hey, this is what works for me. Right. So what I always, tell people when it comes to sales, when it comes to recruiting, whatever it is, it's a process. Well, we all talk about the process, and, know your process. Know like, hey, this is how, I ask questions. This is how I, tell my story, my presentation. This is how I close, and I'm not going to change it. I'm going to keep doing it until, I see like, hey, when I do this 10 times, I'm getting 2 sales out of it. All right. So now let me do the next 10 times. I'll change something up, and I'll know what I'm changing. I'm not changing the entire process. I'm just going to change 1 or 2 things. And then let me see, if I do it for 10 people, do I get better results? Do I get worse results? And then you can start kind of figuring out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. But in our business, what happens so many times, and really in sales period, is we just kind of do it, and we really don't have a process of actually, what we do and how we do it. And I think the greats of our company and of other salespeople, they have a process. They know what they're going to do before they walk into a room. They know exactly what they're going to say, and it's not necessarily scripted, but they know what's going to happen, right? They know how the football game is going to play out, so to speak.
I love that. I love that. So, I read somewhere that there's a difference between professionals and amateurs. Professionals, they can predict the future. They know what's going to happen seemingly before it happens, right? And of course, they make money, and amateurs don't, right? Amateurs, it's like, well, I think this might happen if I do this, right? If I can sit down, I'm not an artist, right? I just like to draw. I'm like, it didn't work out. But, if I'm a professional, I know exactly what's going to go on the page. Right. Same thing in business, right? If I sit down with a customer to a large degree, especially as the minutes tick on, I know if that person's going to sign up before they sign up. Generally speaking, would you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, here's another thing. Okay. So, this might be semi-controversial to some. If I gave you a choice, I said, look, we're strictly talking about our service. We're not talking about recruiting. Okay. And you need to make a sale. Somebody needs to sign up. You need to make some commission. Okay. And I'm going to give you a pretty good prospect. You can either text them some information, have a text conversation, text them a video to watch. You can meet with them, we'll say on Zoom, since it's all shut down, and you do the presentation. Which one of those are you going to pick, and why?
Today or 10 years ago?
Right now, today.
So today, if it's just a sale and it's not my end thought is to recruit the person, I would rather do the presentation.
Okay. And why would that be?
Because I want to be able to interact and have the conversation, just kind of like what we talked about back at the beginning, with the person, versus if I just send them a video, I don't know, I don't see their face. I don't see what really attracted them. When the things pop up on the screen, are they attracted to the will? Are they attracted to the member perks? I don't see that kind of glimmer of them going, oh, that's kind of cool. I would like to learn more about that. So if I'm just getting a sell, that's my route.
Okay. Rachael, what would you say?
I'm totally going to agree with Daniel here. And the reason why is because I actually had this situation happen to me just yesterday. I ended up getting a gal that was referred to me by another member. She sent me an email, and I just gave her a call. I sent her a link to my calendar. She scheduled a 15-minute time frame, which by the way, is an awesome efficiency hack. Just go to calendly.com. It's totally free. It doesn't cost you anything. You can like create your own calendar thing. Long story short, I was able to give her a quick call. Didn't take more than 10 minutes. I asked her a few nominal questions and was able to get her enrolled into the plan that was most suitable for her needs. And so, again, I would completely agree with what Daniel just said, because, sometimes a general overview is great for intrigue, but it's not great for that person that needs some one-on-one attention.
Ooh, a short video is good for intrigue. I like that. Hey, John, just put that in the comment section. If anybody wants to check out that calendar, it's in the comment section, calendly.com. It is pretty cool. I have used other people's. I don't have one, but I've thought about getting one. Maybe since you said it, I'll do that now. All right, cool. So real quick question. What about scripts? I heard you mention it, Daniel. Do you guys believe in them? Do you use them? What's your thoughts on that? Daniel, we'll let you go first.
No, I don't use them. I've never used them just because, as Rachael kind of stated earlier, I just don't want to come off, and I know we were talking about sales this entire time. Yep. I don't want to come off salesy, right? And we all know, like, you put yourself in those shoes when you hear the click of the phone, which now most of us don't even answer the phone if it's not a number we don't recognize. But as soon as you pick up the phone and you hear the click, and you can just, the first word, like hello, sounds scripted, right? It's from the first word, you can tell that they're just reading from a piece of paper, like, hey, this is, and so I've never been that way. But I've also understood, especially for new people, because when I was new, I understood that I may not, go word by word, but it's still nice to have like a flow of like, hey, this is how I'm going to go about things. But that's different than an actual script. Okay.
Rachael, what would you say?
I agree 100%. I would never go off of a script. You are you, and people will buy you before they buy what you're selling. And at the end of the day, there's so many ways that we can engage with folks now today in our digital environment that it does not need to actually be on a phone call or a voicemail. We can check in with them on LinkedIn. We can check in with them on Facebook or Instagram or any of the other touch points that we have. We're living in a digital environment, and I don't think that having a script, people are up on the gig, right? So it's not the way that people buy. And if you just think back to the way that you buy and the way that you're trying to sell, just think about that for a quick moment. You want to be the person that you'd like to fall in love with, right? So if that is true in any case, it would be that script is a script is a script. And everybody knows, like, hot pickup line from being genuine and not being genuine. And I would just put it back to that. So no scripts.
Okay. So I'm gonna ruffle the waters a little bit. I've always used scripts. Always. I mean, if you hear a presentation from me, it'll be like within like this much percentage, the same thing every time. And it's almost like I have to consciously in my brain go, okay, you're not going to say this part this time because it needs to be shorter, right? If you're like, for example, the presentation, if you go, okay, you don't have 30 minutes, you have 15. I got to go, okay. Don't say that part. Don't say that part. Don't say that part. Or else it just comes out the same way every time. But to both of your points, like, because I just remember being new and going, well, what do I say? And some, just set an appointment, just shoot. I'm like, well, I've never done it. I don't know what to say. And so then I remember the first time, one of the first scripts I was given was the Dave Savola script. I think one of the second scripts when I started doing B2B was the Bill Geithner script. I made $20,000 off that script, by the way. And but what happened was after I ran it a few times, it was just more like Daniel said, a flow chart, right? And then once you did it maybe 100 times, then now you go from knowing what to say to get good at always knowing what to say. So,
and I think it goes back to, I know you were talking about what we would do today. So, it's different than starting out, because I would say starting out, you do need to, but again, you can practice right now, like open up your Zoom. You don't have to have anybody on, and just practice talking to yourself and reading a script and getting good at it until you don't have to, sit there and read it line by line. Because I'm just from the thinking, when I think of script, I literally think of, because I've seen people do it, right? And we all, like car salesmen, everything else, we all know, like people actually holding up something and reading it line by line versus having it just embedded in your memory of what's going to happen next, even though you don't think of it as a script.
Right. Yeah. Well, I would say that's a common, amateur salesman, thing to do, is instead of listening to what the person's saying, you're just thinking of what you need to say next. Right. One of my favorites. So Rachael, right. Especially when you're calling on like HR or CEO types, when you call, you're like, hello, is Rachael available? And you're like, yeah, this is Rachael. What's up? And you're like, well, how are you today? Have either of you had this experience? One time I did that. I called an owner, said, hey, how are you today? He's like, do you really care how I'm doing? Like, honestly, do you really care? Is this a sales call? I was like, yeah, you're right. I don't care. He's like, yeah, don't ever say that again. People know. And I was like, appreciate that. I learned something here. Yeah. So
they know you're calling for one reason. They don't want to beat around the bush. Their time is limited.
Yeah. I'll never forget that. That was pretty cool. Learn that. So I remember one time I had this young guy. He was in another. I forget what he sold. He had his own thing he was doing, but he had this script that he had found. I don't know where he got this thing from. And he sent it to me, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm gonna crush it. I'm gonna make cold calls to companies and do all this." And he sent it to me. I was like, "Don't say this. Please don't say this to anybody. Like, I'll tell you what's gonna happen. It's not gonna be good." So, absolutely. So pretty hilarious. So here's another thing. For a lot of folks out there, might say, "Well, we don't sell. We share. We just share information. That's all we do. We share information." Before I get into that, what would you have to say? What would you say about, well, we just share information, right? We just send people info and they decide if they want to get it or not, right? We're not actually selling. What would you be your response to that?
I can go first. So my first deal is that the first thing you need to understand is who is your prospect. So I think that this is one thing that gets really kind of convoluted and muddied in the waters, is that first starting out, at least for me, I had no idea who my prospect was. So I thought that every single person on the face of the universe was my prospect. So I tried to put everybody in the same bucket. And that was a huge mess for me. I don't know about you guys. I don't know about you, Josh, or you, Daniel, but the first 2 years in my Legal Shield business was nothing but a mess. And I made all the big mistakes. I did everything wrong. And that was how I learned how to do things right. So the first thing that I would recommend is to understand your prospect, to then understand how you could best answer this question, and direct them in the right way on the avenue, because we have all these resources and so many different areas that we can plug somebody into. Not one size fits all. And unfortunately, at the beginning, I thought that it was a one size fits all type thing. And so I'm going to pass it back on over to Daniel, because I love your approach and the consultative questioning that you have been able to put into your business that I did, but I learned um, 2 years after I messed everything up. So over to you.
So I'm a little bit old school when it comes to the word sell. I did get the privilege and honor of, hanging out with Mr. Stone Cipher, our founder, Wilburn Smith. So a lot of the, the goodies, but the oldies, right? And they were from the belief. And I think it's something that's kind of got along the lines through the years. People are like, well, nobody wants to sell. And I'm from the belief everybody sells. Like, I don't care. We can all call it sharing. We can call it whatever to make you feel better or to make somebody else feel better is usually what you're doing, but it's selling. We're in the world today of influencers and all this other stuff, and all they're doing is selling themselves, right? I mean, they're selling, hey, come watch me, whether they're a vlogger or whether they're travel. It's like, hey, come buy my brand. I'm selling me. Come check me out. And that's exactly what we're doing, right? We're coming to, people are coming to you for Legal Shield, right? If you're out talking to people or whatever, and you're selling it. And if that has something in your head of like, well, I don't want to sell or I don't whatever, well, name something, whatever you're doing that you're selling. And I'll go back to the old Zig Ziglar days of like, I don't care if you have a 9-to-5 job, you have to sell yourself every day to get up and go back to your 9-to-5. Right.
Yeah.
That's a sales process all in itself. So it's a matter how you look at things. I'm just a little old school when it comes to looking at selling. It's just part of your life.
I'm with it. He's an old school young pro. I like it. I like how you mentioned influencer. We're actually having a young pro influencer event later this month. It's gonna be very posh.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, well, yeah. So my point is this, right? So we do a couple things, right? Every time we reach out to somebody, meet somebody, right? We're finding people, i.e. prospecting, right? Number 2, we're setting appointments. Number 3, we're doing a presentation somehow, some way. We're following up with the person, and to not use a mean and terrible word, closing, we're collecting a decision, right? I mean, that's pretty much what we do. That's the 5 things. You get good at the 5 things or you don't get good at the 5 things. If you want to call it sales or not, but that's it, right? So anyway, all right, well, cool. Well, good stuff, guys. Good stuff. So let's we got a few minutes left. So, we're talking about, we've talked about, okay, scripts, use them, not use them, what you were doing wrong, what you were doing right, asking questions, getting to know the people. But how in the world do you go from both of your backgrounds and my background? I had 3 months in at an insurance office before college or after college, right? So I had 3 whole months of insurance sales training where the one thing I learned was how to set an appointment. I did learn that. That was extremely useful, right? No selling over the phone. But how do you go from that to now selling, each over 2,000 memberships, right? What does that look like from, oh my gosh, I just got 1, I just got 5, I just got 10, boom, 2,000, right? So like, what was it the goal? Hey, I'm going to go sell thousands of memberships. Was it just like 1 turned into 2, 2 turned into 5? What happened there along the way where you're like, I'm going there? Because that's something most people they'll never get to. So Daniel, we'll go with you first.
So again, go back to one of the gentlemen I mentioned, Wilburn Smith. So Wilburn used to always tell me, so back when I first got started, he would always want me to call him when I got done with either, sitting down an appointment or going to a group appointment, whatever it was. He wanted to call. He wanted me to have a conversation with him. And at the end of the conversation, it was always, you could do better. So whether you sold 1,000, whether you sold whatever, at the end of the conversation, he would kind of build you up, but he would leave you with, I know you could do better. So he taught me, when I first got started, was always be closing, which we hear a lot, in sales or whatever, but it was, stop. So kind of going back to the asking questions, if somebody's like, hey, I just got a speeding ticket, yesterday, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I would go right into, I wouldn't even cover the rest of the presentation. It would be like, well, here, you can sign up, back then, $17, whatever it was. And it would just fill out the application, or let's get started on a computer. And then after they got signed up, it was, well, here's everything else you bought. right? So instead of trying to be like, wait, let me go ahead and explain everything to you. Because what I would do when I did that, I would talk people out of it.
Yeah.
Because people are like $17 or now $25. How do you get all this for $25? And we can give the analogy of like Spotify and all this other stuff, but still people don't understand that. They just understand like, hey, I pay money and I get access to all this. They don't understand how it works.
Right.
Because nobody, I mean, when you go sign up for Netflix or Spotify, nobody says, hey, you have access to all these millions of songs. Let me show you where you can go and do all this. And you can go here and do this. Like nobody really explains it to them. People just go and sign up for it, right? Because they want to listen to their favorite artist or anything else. And for us, we're trying to explain everything to somebody from the get-go before they ever even sign a dotted line. And people are already backing out before they ever even, fully get in.
Oh man, that's so good. Let me just rephrase and repeat what he said, and I can just think I'm just flooded with examples of times where somebody was like, yeah, I think I'd like to get that. And they're like, well, let me explain it. And you do this eloquent, very detailed. When I first started, I thought I had to give an example of every single line item, in the brochure. And by the end, people are yawning, their eyes are rolling back in their head. And they're like, they're saying things like, well, we got to go think about it, pray about it. We'll get back to you. I would contend if you're getting, I'll think about it. That's an often thing that you get on a regular basis. You're probably just way too much. Would you tend to agree with that?
Yeah. Catherine Waldron told me something one time. In one of her group schools, she said, stop deviating from the close. So when you just did what you did, you go, well, let me tell you something else. She was like, you're deviating from the entire process that you're trying to complete, which is the close. So you're trying to steer them off where they're already headed. You've done your job and you're like, no, pay attention over here. This is my next step.
Yeah. I love it. And Rachael, what about you? Same question. You know what I mean? So you started, you were trying to put beautiful pamphlets out for CEOs while cleaning. Then you started doing a little bit, but when you started really, hitting your stride, how did it go from that point to really in a short amount of time, you're where you're at now, right? That hasn't been that long.
To some, it may not seem like a very long time, but the first and foremost thing that I would jot down for everyone that's here is a close is not a close. A close is a process, and it begins with the very first point of engagement. To put the expectation out in front immediately has saved me so much time and stress, so that when it comes to the end result, your prospect understands and knows exactly what they're getting and what that means. So let me just give you a quick example. If I am engaging with someone, let's just say the gal that I was talking about earlier, right? My first engagement starts with, hey, I've come across a program that I think could be very helpful for you. The cost of this program is $25 a month. I think it could help you in these ways. You would have to enroll on a month-by-month basis, and you can do that through my website. If you'd like to have more information, please let me know. So I'm letting her know immediately exactly what the cost process is, how much it's going to cost her, and what the value proposition is before she has to make a buying decision. And I do that for every single one of my prospects because of the fact that I understand what my buying knowledge is. If I'm going on Amazon and I want to purchase a video cam that I have right here, I'm going to look at exactly what the price is, what are the reviews for the customer, and how is it going to work for me? And if you can answer those questions from the offset, then you're going to save yourself a lot of stress. Now, to get back to the bulk of your question, Josh, is consistency is everything, and short-term goals is absolutely everything, because this is a commission-based business. This is not something that you're going to come into and hit money and hit the gold mine in your first month or your first year. If you do that, that is awesome, but retention is key. So what I would tell everybody that's listening in here is that this is a career choice. And if you really want to make six figures on an annual basis, year by year by year, number one, your heart needs to be in the retention-based mode of the clients that you are onboarding and the members that you are onboarding into your personal business. You have to love them. You have to treat them like family. This is what retains that business model that we call financial freedom. Number two, you have to give yourself goals that are short term so you can celebrate the small goal wins. And number three, you have to have a long-term goal that's going to make you completely be consistent. So for me, my first long-term goal was 3 years. That was a big stretch from being a waitress and earning cash every single day and scrubbing toilets and floors to have an income-based model that gave me time versus money. That was a big stretch. And I understand for anybody that's listening in right now, if you're like, I want to get rich quick, and I think this is going to be a quick way for me to do this. I'm here to tell you, although others may not agree with me or not like this message, this is not a get rich quick thing. This is a legacy building career that you can be proud of, that you can devote your time to, that will pay you and your legacy for years to come. And so if we just put those key things into our mindset, I promise you it will pay off. And that's my message.
Man, that is incredible. That is incredible. Hope everybody's enjoying this, right? And I saw somebody post, right? If anybody wants to share this, obviously you can share this right on Facebook. Just go up, hit the share button, send it, tag somebody. Simple, simple, simple. However, this will be up on YouTube tomorrow at 3:00. You can go to youngproshowcase.com and send that out to the universe if you'd like to. So, hey guys, I really appreciate you hopping on, taking some time away from selling all those thousands of customers to hang out with us today. But, before we hang it up, of course, just want to, if you don't have any last comments, no problem. If you do, Daniel, we'll go to you first. Any closing thoughts? Yes, no, maybe. Your beard's looking good. Maybe we can just end there.
Thank you. I would just say something that we've again talked about. We may have not said it every time, but it's, practice what you want to do, right? So, Rachael just talked about short-term goals, long-term goals. But if you're not practicing with yourself, if you're not actually doing presentations, none of this matters what you're watching right now, right? So you've got to get good at what you're doing. And whether you're, want to just recruit, that's fine. If you want to go out and sell and recruit, do all of it, whatever it is, you got to devote some time to not only like kind of hone your craft, get good. And today there's never, you have things like we're on right now, but there are, hundreds, thousands of hours of content that you can watch to get better at what you're doing, whether it's a short snippet here, there, whatever. So practice what you want to accomplish and then go out and just do it. I love what, Gary Vee talks about all the time. He's like, make it messy before it's perfect, right? Mm-hmm. Make it messy before it's perfect. And so just go out, be messy, right? It doesn't matter because those people, guess what? If they don't buy today, you can come back to them a year from now, 6 months from now, 5 years from now. And then once you're good and you've mastered your craft, then you can roll them in.
Man, that's good. So a book that I've been reading, a little bit of, you'd like this one, Daniel. It's an old school book. It's Psychology of Selling by not Tom, Brian Tracy. There we go.
Yes,
there we go.
Tracy. Yeah,
that's a good one. Hey, listen, take this man's advice, right? If you're like, man, I haven't been doing my own presentations. I haven't even tried to, right? Simple. Go find 5 people this week that that for sure is going to tell you no, right? And you call them up, say, hey, I need some practice. You don't got to buy anything. Hop on Zoom. You do the presentation. Use some of the tools, right? We have, PDFs and all kinds of stuff in the back office, whatever your thing is, and just practice. And then, have them give you some feedback. And if it's bad, then just take it. You can even record yourself, go back and watch yourself. You're going to be like, I wouldn't buy anything for me either, right? But you'll get better. So, Rachel, I'll let you have the last word if you have any.
Well, thanks so much. And the last thing that I would just say is give yourself the opportunity to have success. One of the biggest things that was a huge mind block for me is, I come from the ghetto, if you will, and not from limited means. And so it took me a long time to give myself freedom enough to have success. And what success means is you just give yourself the time and the freedom to do what you need to do, to develop a strategy, to be consistent, and to stay focused on your goals. And that would be my end statement.
Incredible. Well, I appreciate you guys. Hey, Gina, my good friend Gina is on. Great comment, Gina. Appreciate you. All right, guys. Well, hey, you guys have a great evening. You guys out there, youngproshowcase.com. This will be up tomorrow. We'll see you next Tuesday. It's a Young Pro Showcase. We're always bringing inspiration, some stories, some topics that is going to help you grow yourself and your business. And we'll see you guys next week.